Well, good morning, Smite fans, and welcome to the Smite Challenger Circuit. If your weekend is just getting started, what better way than to start off with some Smite esports action here on the European side for SCC today? My name is Jay Max Tucker. With me, Gore Meisner. Gore, this might be one of the best matchups of the SCC that we'll get to witness, probably all season long.
Yeah, this is actually an interesting one today that we're going to be watching. Elysium has been a treat to watch throughout all of this, and again, depending on who you watch them against, it's going to be a relatively quote-unquote easy matchup for them, right? But Accounting Department, Pandemonium are two teams that I think are giving them a little more trouble than they would have expected. I think than a lot of people would have expected. And Accounting Department specifically is the team that they're going up against today. I think they're even more likely to give them trouble than, say, even Pandemonium, who's been doing pretty well so far this phase. I think Accounting Department, I don't want to say that they can unseat them from the very top, but if there's any team in Europe that I'm going to put my hopes in to do it, it would be Accounting Department.
Yeah, right now, as you saw in the standings, 6-1 for Elysium. Only been taken down one time. Accounting Department 5-2. If there's any team to go at it, it would be that number 2 seed. There are always chances of upsets previously. But, I mean, just looking at these two teams, looking at these lineups for, there are some big names that have been in the scene for a long time and some former pro players in here as well. Probably the biggest, most well-known two on the side of Elysium, Trix Tank and Adapting, both former SPL players. Former SPL World Champion in there as well with the DAP thing. Then you have Kalos, Wolfie, Ice Ice, Deathwalker on the flip side. But, I think this is probably one of the names that we're going to be talking about a lot today, Adapting in the jungle for Elysium.
Yeah, I actually think this is the thing that's been most interesting to me. Like, we talk about junglers a lot. Jungle in this game and Smite and pretty much any MOBA in general really does dictate the pace. But no matter what you're doing in Smite, your junglers are going to be important, right? Like, where they're putting their pressure, things like that. That's always been the case. But right now, Shell's been nerfed. Junglers have way more, I want to say, versatility. And specifically in Europe, like last year, Trix Tank happened to play on a team with Johnny. Guess what Johnny liked to play? Kali. He liked to play Baka, Sura. He liked to play a lot of in-hand kind of auto-heavy gods. And I think that this meta could really allow that to grow and flourish a little bit more. And I'm looking at a lot of these highlight reels and I'm thinking, man, Adapting's going to have a real easy time if none of his autos are getting blocked away. I think it's going to be interesting to watch what he's able to do and if he's pulling out anything new or if he's just going over to the tried and trues.
Yeah, and that's one big thing about this team as well is, we're going to talk a lot about Adapting. We're talking a lot about Trix Tank, with former SPLs, but onto there. But the rest of this team, Spudio, Angry, and Terrorum, all really terrifying players to go up against.
Yeah.
But what better team to go up against them than the Accounting Department squad? Okeanos on the squad as well as Kalos, Wolfie, Ice Ice, and Deathwalker. 4 former SPL players and teammates in that SPL. I mean, this is a dangerous squad to go up against. And much like we talked about Adapting with the jungle, Ice Ice as well. But Ice Ice is a little bit, I would say, less conventional, more so nowadays, not really going with these auto attacks that we would be seeing after it. Kind of likes the more spicy pickups.
Yeah, it's really, again, very fun to watch, and Spice right now is the flavor of life that's going to be coming through. I think Accounting Department, that's where they can win this, not just team synergy, but also bringing in things that maybe, at least Elysium aren't as used to. Deathwalker as well, very eclectic in his god pool. Wolfie has a lot, we got to see Wolfie Adapting played against Wolfie last year in the SBL, so there's maybe a little more knowledge, at least more recent knowledge, of what Wolfie's willing to bring out. But I think everybody else here in the Accounting Department, specifically, I think it is the Ice Ice Deathwalker combo here for me that is what could win this over for them. I think Deathwalker brings not only an eclectic god pool, but a very diverse, and he's really good at all of them as well. It's not just man, he's going to play something weird and throw the lane. He's going to play something weird and he's going to beat you with it, and there's not much you can do about it. I think that solo lane matchup's going to be a really interesting match to keep your eye on this game.
Yeah, I think overall, as we get ready to go into the picks and bans here for game number 1, I think we're going to be seeing a lot of highly contested, kind of stranger picks and bans. I think maybe game 1 we'll see a lot of the standard, the meta, get those really good gods out there. But I wouldn't be surprised if we start seeing a lot of different matchups that we're not normally used to seeing, at the SPL level or even among some of the other SCC or SOC level teams. And I think one of those right off the bat there, that was Cyrus very early on into the draft phase. That feels like that is 100% a Deathwalker ban.
Yeah, there's literally no reason to be banning Osiris except for the fact that Deathwalker's on the other team, right? Like, that's the only thing, and I think that Sun Wukong is going over there as well, where it's just, what can we do to try and isolate and lock him down a little bit better? And this Osiris, I mean, we got to see it on the side in some of those highlights, and I think it was the kind of forefront of those highlights, but this Osiris, if Deathwalker comes out and plays it, it will win them games. Like, just straight up, he will be able to win them several games if possible, but getting banned out here, I think, is a good way for Elysium to start this off, showing they've done their homework, but also trying to keep under control probably one of the best parts of Accounting Department's team.
Well, we do see the Ratatosker locked in, and while I would normally go, yeah, cool, jungle locked in really early on, you can't quite say that. Deathwalker is a bit of a weird one out there into the solo lane. I mean, we're talking about the guy who made Geb solo, Ares solo, brought back Bellona into the meta at one point. I mean, this guy has done it all, and I would not be surprised to see if this Ratatosker maybe goes back into his hands. The Heimdall, a little bit more of a safe lock-in, kind of one of those top hunters at the moment. So a very strong early 2 picks, I would say, here for Accounting Department.
Yeah, nothing too crazy. I mean, Ratatosker, it's one of those things. SBL, probably a little crazy. Here, it does make sense. Like you said, maybe a little earlier than I would have expected, but it is, again, trying to control it, and it is flexible, and that's probably the biggest key. You don't know if that's solo, you don't know if it's jungle, and you won't know until they lock in either a warrior alongside it or maybe another assassin, or potentially they lock in a warrior that can flex into the jungle, and then you're still just as confused, which I think is the main goal here. But the problem I see, at least for Accounting Department, Ratatosker, even if he could be high priority, and even if he is ambiguous, Sobek, on her, Cucullin. Those are 3 obnoxious names, and all of them are on one squad. The Sobek on her, like, even just ignoring solo lane and looking at the duo lane, there's so much control, and it's kind of like a kill lane that comes through. That's kind of what we've been able to call it. A good pluck plus a good impale, the pillar setup, it's almost a guaranteed kill.
Okay, so Sylvanas lock in here, Gore. You're gonna have to explain this one to me. We saw on the thing there, no picks, no bans. Like, this is first time we're seeing this god come out. What in the world is Sylvanas to do? I'm looking at the flip side. I'm seeing a Sobek. I'm going, why would you ever pick this Sylvanas into Sobek?
Yeah, so let's start with all the negatives first. First things first is that Sylvanas is going to die theoretically a lot. He has no mobility, and when you have displacement from the Sobek, that means you're in the forefront. Early on, that's maybe the worst case scenario for you. Your heal's not doing too much, you're not really that tanky, and your root can't really stop him from killing you. It's only going to stop him from running you down. So that's the bad stuff, and it's mainly the first 5-10 minutes, right? All of that, theoretically, you can grow past. But the thing I really like about Sylvanas, first off, good in-combat healing that's going to be there for the team. I think his ult is really, really good in the middle of a team fight. But ignoring all of that, you get mana regen coming from his trees, as well as a good root, reliable root that comes down from that, as well as that pluck. A little bit of displacement for yourself. Not the same as Sobek's. You stay rooted, they come to you. And depending on whether it's Chiron or Heimdall, either one, you're very happy with that setup for your carries. It does not feel like a duo lane that is going to be looking for early game fights. In fact, if anything, I'd be surprised to see them leave their tower line, but it does feel like one that, as the game transitions, can be really impactful in the middle of a team fight.
And this team only got scarier going against the Sylvanas here. Nemesis is definitely not a fun one to play against as a Sylvanas. Raijin is not a fun one. Now, you have the Chiron, like you said, for a little bit of support. You do have the Cleanse with his first ability onto it, you know. But even with this Terra locked in onto this one, I think the big question mark for me is just going to come down to, how is this Sylvanas ever going to live more than 5 seconds in a team fight? I mean, it feels just like adapting, walks over, presses 4, and then it's tree be chopped, gone, out of existence.
Now, my immediate mentality is to say that, hey, just throw it in the solo lane here. You've got Terra locked in, right? Like, I don't know what the matchup's like against a Cucullin for a Sylvanas. I don't know that I've ever seen it, but maybe that's something you could do. The problem is, Terra fits so much better in the solo lane here, so I wouldn't be surprised to actually have that come through. And you know what? Okay, I'm just wrong.
Okay,
I'm just all wrong. Everything's wrong.
Nope. Why would we ever think that we would have a normal composition ever, anywhere, at any point in given time. Now, I will stand by hi-rez on the pick here. I think that Mannequin Sylvanas is one of the most disgusting early clears in any jungle camp ever. It's something you could solo up, you know. I like to run in support sometimes to be silly. You get the Mannequin, you just like insta-clear purple. You don't even need a Hand of the Gods with how good it is. Now you have him on any other jungle camp. Cool. You have a lot of jungle pressure. You clear camps really fast, but what else do you provide?
Okay, so this is a really weird, very niche level of experience. I have never personally done this. I have a friend, though, loves to play ring Sylvanas, because think about it, he's got a lot of branches. You can put a lot of rings on those branches. That's the at least the lore reason for it. But you got to look at it exactly what you said. So Mannequin's going to help out with the autos. He's got AoE autos. That's perfect for jungle clear. So camp-wise and farm-wise, hi-rez should have a hell of a time this game. He's going to have a lot of fun in the PvE aspect. But then it comes to that PvP. Sylvanas can do, I want to say, a sneaky amount of damage, but this doesn't seem to me like, again, something you're expecting to carry you. And exactly that. Like, he's going to be able to do some damage, but you're not going to build. Like, I would expect a Bruisery-esque build. I think you're looking at someone who is going to be very setup-oriented. I have no idea if it's going to be good. I don't know if I can say that, but I can say it's going to be interesting, and that it should provide a lot of opportunities for this Chiron still coming out of the jungle.
I mean, one thing that we saw just at those back camps in the blue buff is each of those ticks of Mannequin, after those 3 basic attacks are coming through, 32 plus damage per tick onto multiple enemies within the jungle. Obviously, each of those ticks onto the blue buff, each of those ticks onto those harpies, and because they're AoE, they're splashing evenly onto. I mean, you saw 42 a tick there, and what better god to utilize 42 ticks per auto on a Mannequin Scepter than one who can do it to everything that he hits in an instant because of those AoE. Instant aggression, nice little pull on the Angry, but not much follow-up beyond there. He's going to get right back to the tower, no problem.
But imagine that exact engagement in like 3 minutes, right? Root, pull, I'm going to hit you with an auto, and I have a Hunter behind me. That's death. I mean, there's a lot of moments here where I think it's going to cause a lot of trouble for a lot of good, easy beads forcings throughout this game. Look, I don't know whether or not I like it or not still, but I'm really excited to see what hi-rez can offer here because of this Sylvanas. I'm also interested to see how Adapting and the rest of Elysium deal with it, like what their options are going to be. I actually think Adapting here, look, with Terra on the side as well as the Sylvanas, Deathwalker probably going to have a little bit of a Bruisery build in there as well. You've got some good targets for Adapting's ult to try and strip away those protections and then kind of slow people down. So theoretically, there will be some good kills for Adapting just as well, but only on the ult cooldown.
Well, Deathwalker in a lot of trouble here. Terran trying to die, but not enough damage. The vent angers ticks. Not quite enough for it. A gank over to the dual lane in response off of an attempted purple buff steal for it. Trixtank might not be able to make it out of here. He was trying to buy time for Spudio. They split the team up, and Okeanos finds first blood, but somehow Trixtank might be making out of here. Use the blink to get past. Kalotz is one of his own. Stuns in between the walls and saves the final hit for Wolfie to take him down. Quick 2-0 on the board for Accounting Department.
And that's big for a duo lane. Look, like Heimdall loves to just sit back, loves to participate in the game, but does like to farm up a little bit more than I'd say like an Onher does early on. I think Heimdall follows in that exact perfect scenario where he's going to be relaxed if you need him to, get aggressive if you need him to, but Terra wants to play this as hard as she can, and so far I like the fact that they rotate into that, and as long as Kalas makes it out of this one alive, the duo lane is going to have a good enough lead that I'm feeling comfortable and confident for them, let alone how they're feeling, especially being able to retaliate against Elysium like that.
Yeah, not able to quite steal that purple buff away like they had theirs taken off the board, but at least an attempt there, and most importantly, Kalas making it out alive, able to fully pick up not just that benevolence, but make sure to get those boots online as well. Wolfie in a lot of danger, however. Thunder crash in, and ultimate from Angry. That's guaranteed death for the mid lane Chiron. He will fall down, and Tarum managed to pick up a solo kill onto Deathwalker. hi-rez going to try and return fire onto a root after the ultimate, and that is more than enough damage to get the first kill on the board for this jungle Sylvanas.
Yeah, I can hear you. It's so hard to get those two words out together, right? Like, you could say the word jungle, and you can say the word Sylvanas, and as long as there's a few words in between or a pause, it doesn't feel wrong.
But when you say them together, it's one of those things where you kind of have to check yourself. Like, you still don't believe it. We're 4.5 minutes of the game, and I'm still not fully believing the fact that we have a Sylvanas jungle here in game number 1. I guess if there's any game to do it, you do it in game number 1 when you've got some flexibility, when you got some room to kind of play here and maybe try and throw them off kilter onto it. I don't know. We'll have to see how it transitions further on because, like you said, I imagine it's got to be a more bruiser style. Sylvanas he just gets turned into paper mache late game if he doesn't have defense online. And all honesty, I wouldn't even be surprised to see if this Mannequin Scepter gets sold if that is the case and he goes for a more bruiser style.
Yeah, I'm excited to watch that build as it continues because so far, like lifesteal boots, I mean, already something you're not used to seeing on a Sylvanas, I guess I would say, but also something that is going to be beneficial for Ice. And again, watching where him and adapting start to put some of the pressure. Ice, I think, has a lot of CC. Again, it's setup potential more than anything that I'm looking at. Those little trees. I've, mentioned the fact that, yeah, technically there's mana regen. I don't think we're going to see a single one of these placed for mana regen, well, at least if he can have his way for Ice. It's all intentionally going to be roots and setup.
Uh-oh, that's the ultimate in from adapting. Angry's got his as well, and Ice is the target. He's going to fall down quickly, but some big damage onto adapting. Wolfie responds with an ultimate of his own. They trade out jungle for jungle. Wolfie getting very aggressive. That may spell the end of him, but Trix Tank unable to connect with that pluck, which means that Wolfie will get to make it back to the towers safely. Good one-for-one trade there. Ice able to come out on top with it at the help of Wolfie on the back.
I am going to need to get on and play Chiron at some point. Like, it is like, I always end up playing support. I haven't played a lot of, like, Chiron lately. I can't even think of the last time I locked in Chiron. Like, it is one thing to see him come back into the meta, but another to be reminded of how much damage he does. Like, a little bit of a sleeper on the ult. Like, I didn't remember how much it was capable of, and of course, having that potential to stall your life out, potentially even turn around and get your life back if you can find a kill with it. It's a lot more damage than I think some of these carries, and specifically these junglers have been expecting, and scenarios where normally you'd be able to run away, all of a sudden this giant arrow's flying right at you and there's no way to escape it. I think that's something that Wolfie obviously handled well there, but is going to handle throughout a lot of this game. And it's going to make things awkward, right? If you're Spudio, all of a sudden your safe zone, quote-unquote, isn't safe anymore. You have to think a little bit more about your health and your engagements. And there's something to be said, if you're too worried about potentially where Wolfie's damage is coming from, then it makes it easier for, say, someone like Ice to try and get you locked down. There's a lot of problems on the side of accounting department that Elysium are going to have to handle. Granted, they're all very weird problems. That actually is going to be an edge for them. I'm wondering how this is going to go. I actually really like that, seeing that we have Ice leveling up his tree. Going for some of that damage, again, good for clearing more than it is anything, as opposed to healing up, or leveling up the heal, which I guess is what you would be a little more used to in the duo lane, since you're trying to just survive and stabilize. I mean, when was the last time we saw, like, we got a couple Sylvanas games, I think, from Inbound and the SBL last year, but, like, he doesn't come through a whole lot lately. This is just nice and fresh.
No, he's one of those guys that really, really fluctuates based off the meta, but hold that onto it. A pluck onto Ice into the mid lane. Angry's got an ultimate of his own, but he can't seem to find the shots. Only one of the drums connects onto it, and Ice will get to live despite that unfortunate pluck that came his way. I don't think that there's any other way that he could have come out of that besides Angry just missing 3 ticks of the ultimate there.
Look, I'm going to give Angry the benefit of the doubt. No Sylvanas should be moving as fast as this Sylvanas, right? I mean, theoretically, you're going to be able to lock him down a little easier. Although I say that, and he does only have boots. There's not a lot of other movement speed in there, so maybe that benefit of the doubt can be waived completely to the side. It's one of those things that, like, you know, like you said, if you are able to connect that, that's going to be a clean kill for you. And I think shutting down Ice early on would slow it down. He's gone for this Chronos Pendant. Again, going to be helpful in the gank, specifically on the long cooldown. You got to look at how long that pull takes to recharge. It's going to be a little while, and you have to wait for your ganks because of it.
Solo lane again. We've been seeing Ice put so much priority into the solo lane, whether it be to try and get a gank on a Tarim, you know, try and start a fight, or whether it just be to come over here and farm alongside Deathwalker. What's, you know, kind of the logic on Ice spending so much time on this side of the map?
Honestly, I think it's to try and help Ratatosker get ahead. Like, Deathwalker has that death on his line, and yeah, Terram technically has one, but because you are an assassin, it's going to take a little bit longer, I think, to feel as comfortable and as confident as you would want, as opposed to, look, Terram's already got one power, no, not even power, protection item. There we go. My mind completely blanked on the word there. One item that's online for him, so he's going to be a lot tankier now. And Cucullin, level 11, I feel like could impact this a lot more than what we're going to be seeing out of this Ratatosker, at least for the time being.
Kalas going to make a nice little cloak onto Okeanos, who's going to be forced to use his ultimate. Nice wall out of Kalas. We'll make sure to get the stun onto the Hunter and give enough room for his Hunter to get out, but now he's being blocked under the pillar. Ultimate out of Adapting, plucked back right into the hands of Angry, and Adapting will find the final basic for it to take down the support for Accounting Department. One thing I've noticed that Trixtank has done time and time again on these dual lane engagements, he's always managed to find that pluck onto Okeanos.
Yeah, I mean, like clockwork, and it is forcing things, again, like the beads. Okeanos, if we see Trixtank over there anytime soon, probably going to lose his life. It's not going to be anywhere near as easy, and Spudio's been really great at angling himself. That one was so convenient that it was right next to the wall. Didn't even have to think about how do I get a pillar stun on this. Made it a lot more simple for them to open up the doors. And at least force out the beads, if not get the full kill on Okeanos. Getting Kalas is going to be the consolation prize for them.
Oh, now they might be getting that kill onto Okeanos. He doesn't have that ultimate. He gets a nice little bit with the Bifrost to teleport out. And it doesn't look like Elysium are willing to dive the tower for it. So somehow, yet again, Okeanos able to make it out of danger. But when it comes down to these 2v2s that we've seen time and time, Trixtank Spudio versus Kalas Okeanos, every single time in my mind, you have that mentality of, it's the support, grab the support, free and easy kill. Like, the Hunter's got a lot of mobility. But you got to remember that Terra keeps throwing those monoliths up. So Trixtank has been making these adaptive plays for it. Okeanos, he's going to have to make another adaptation, immediately ults away, yet again forced out defensively. But he's been having to make these, on-site adaptive moments where, okay, support has monolith. I have to make sure that I can get aligned to Okeanos, and he has every single time.
Looks like this time they're trying to pay it back. Pay it forward over to Spudio. Not going to be a very easy lockdown, especially with adapting where he is. But I don't know, like, Ice is very frightening to have beside a Terra specifically. First off, there's going to be some synergy, right? Wrath of Terra is Sylvanas' ult. Terra in the game, theoretically, those two can work together pretty well, but there's a lot of lockdown between the two, man. I like, that's where things get really frightening for me. I'm thinking Ratatosker jumps in, stuns somebody, gets some good damage off late game, and then they're rooted, pulled, stunned, rooted again by Terra. Like, there's so many ways to control the flow of a fight and lock people down on Elysium. I'm actually really interested in watching Accounting Department's late game as things go forward. Of course, it is Europe. This has been a little more action-packed than some of it, and I'm poking fun now more than anything, but like, the way things are going, I'm interested to see when these 5-on-5s do happen, and depending on how often we get them, how explosive they're going to be, because I think adapting, and specifically Elysium, if it's one fight at 28 minutes, have a lot more, I guess, just immediate punch that could win them a single fight. But if Accounting Department are taking it in like 3, 4, 5v5s that go on over the course of, let's say, a 10-minute period, they've got way better, not only sustain in that fight, but I think control of the way things will flow, and I think that's going to pay off around objectives.
Well, we're going to see how it does around that objective as the first Gold Fury of the game started up here by Accounting Department, trying to zone them out as Kalas with the walls, but Trixtank in that lurking in the waters. They're going to release the Gold Fury, Desert's Fury on the backside from Spudio, and no one is paying attention to this Hunter. He's just walking into the team, ultimate onto Ice, and that's going to spell the doom for the tree, and maybe even Kalas right after. Ultimate expended for him, no mobility alive, and he's stuck between 4 and taken down. Adapting with the credit for the kill. They're still looking for more blood. Terram diving into the backline to find Okeanos. I think he's more than willing to make that dive in the tower. That's going to get the feats from the Hunter, blinking from Adapting in the final basic double kill for the Elysium jungler. But maybe some response here out of Accounting Department. Wolfie and Deathwalker can rotate over, pick up Adapting, looking for Terram, but Wolfie's getting low. One more basic ult, the immunity from the Aegis, but it will not be enough. The leap for Terram is enough to seal the deal, but Deathwalker still slowly taking damage from that mystical mail, while the rest of Elysium took that Gold Fury.
I mean, just what a monstrous play from adapting in Tarum, right? Like, Tarum should not, A, have lived there, but B, gotten another kill in all of that. Well played by the solo in the jungle there. And like you said, from the rest of the team to be smart enough to be trusting in those two to get the job done, or maybe not wanting to dive a tier 2 tower on their own. It depends on how the comms were going there, but focusing on the Gold Fury, what was at least feeling like a pretty decent fight potentially for Accounting Department, or one that they could start up and feel a little more confident in, instead turned into Elysium not only finding a lot of control, but I mean that strips back more or less the pace of the game. Accounting Department had slowly been accruing a little bit more gold, even with that Fury and those kills picked up. Elysium are just a few hundred ahead, so they were really starting to kind of subtly run away with the game on Accounting Department. And that's a good way to make things bare bones even on the side of Elysium.
I mean, when you look at the gold difference, too, it's only barely 1,000, not even quite 1,500 gold in the lead for Elysium. Not even really that. It's basically a dead even game at this point. Even after that Fury, all that really did was get Elysium back in. They were almost 2k down for a little bit, but more than anything, they just taken the gold lead, even it out, and put up a little bit of an experience lead. You can kind of see that difference into the jungle, into the mid lane on that one. The rest of it kind of evened out throughout the board. Ultimate out of Angry, not going to find any value onto that one, not even get a beads or an Aegis out of it. They're going to set up for the Pyromancer. Trix Tank walking in, but he's going to run into 3 people. Root is good, but a better dash from Trix Tank with that block. He'll make sure to get out.
With 2,800 experience lead, like, I mean, we're used to seeing pretty much either everyone with a level lead or somebody like 4 levels ahead when we see numbers like that. So I'm wondering how close specifically like Angry adapting are to ticking over to like 17 or something. 2 levels there in the jungle is probably where a lot of it's coming from. Now we're going to see that come into fruition.
Fling it to the backline by Tarum. He's chasing down Wolfie. Nowhere for the Horseman to go, but he's going to get back off for him for the while and turn his sights towards Ice Ice. The tree doesn't have long to live as Tarum chops him down. Deathwalker, however, finds Trix Tank straggling in the backline all by himself. Tarum will now make the adaptation to turn his sights towards Deathwalker. They leash off the Pyromancer and they get a 1-for-1 trade. Getting Trix Tank, though, I feel might be a little bit more valuable than Ice Ice, because so far Ice Ice hasn't had much to offer in these last couple of fights.
Yeah, it's a weird thing where you're like, man, the jungler, like, theoretically, like, if I told you jungle for support, it's always worthwhile. Like, Elysium are happy with that trade. I don't think they care too much about losing Trix Tank no matter what. But, like you said, Ice Ice hasn't been as active as maybe we would have hoped. And honestly, I think that might be by design. I mean, looking at his build, like you had mentioned this, if he doesn't have any tank items, he's not going to live a whole lot. Yes, he has the Guardian scaling, but that's not going to be enough on his own. So far, what, Lotus Crown, that's giving him a little bit of procs, but nothing else, and it looks like he's going into another magical power-specific item, and so it's going to slow that down. I will say the good news is, again, though, Ice Ice, it feels almost sacrificial lamb to me. Like, I'm going to go in and die, but because of everything that I do as Sylvanas, I'm going to leave the team fight better for everyone else, right? I'll throw the heal down for everyone. They're going to get prots off of that, not just from the ability itself, but also now from this Lotus Crown coming through as well. Of course, the heal that comes through, damage if he hits any enemies on that. If he gets a root locked down onto anybody, there's going to be prot reduction that comes into the equation. So, like, there's a lot of little things where if he can just set them up properly, it is going to cause a lot of trouble for Elysium. Maybe it does cost him his life more and on, but if he's like 1 in 9, let's say, by the end of this game, but his team is absolutely dominating team fights every time he dies, it's going to be worthwhile. The problem is that we're getting the first half of that, right? He's 1 in 3 right now. We're not getting the second half where his team is really cleaning up everything afterward. In fact, they weren't even able to secure that Pyromancer before, and so now it's creating opportunities, I think, for Elysium to kind of strengthen their grip on this. What is still just a few hundred gold, this is the point where it starts to get choked out, right? Neutral objectives are very big. 1 Pyromancer, now all of a sudden you have a tier 2 ahead, and then you get an Oni Fury, and now all of a sudden you're a tier 3 ahead, and then all of a sudden you're at a Fire Giant and they can't fight you the way they want to. I think there's still a lot of opportunities for Accounting Department, but I think they need to choke up a little bit on their playstyle.
And one thing that you mentioned earlier, well, kind of in a joking manner, the synergy that this Terra Sylvanas can have, just not between the lockdown, but also with that ultimate out of Kalas. I think there's no better character on this team than a Sylvanas to be able to utilize that ultimate that Kalas can provide to the team. Blinks into the back, applies it to 3, 4, 5 people. You get the immediate follow-up blink by Ice to hit those same 4 or 5 people with the Wisp or with that ultimate of his own. And now those ticks are going to slowly go through and proc that ultimate. Even if he can get if he can get both abilities onto it, call that an instant pop through. You do see Kalas blink into the back line, gets 3 with the ultimate, has to use his dash to get out of the fight immediately. That's going to leash the Oni Fury for a split second, but Elysium are going to turn right back to it as soon as Kalas leaves. Angry's going to go as far back as he can with his lead with that Thunder Crash, and now Trixtank going to get dove on by Deathwalker, but he really doesn't care about that. I mean, Deathwalker just kind of shrugged off anything that Trixtank shrugged off anything Deathwalker just threw at him.
Yeah, I was looking at it. I was going to mention the fact that we hadn't really gotten to see a lot of Deathwalker this game or say his name a lot after the Ratatoskr went over there. And admittedly, it's because, like, again, lack of progress. But now Trixtank looks to finally be locked down.
Kalas is in the middle of it. Trixtank taking a lot of damage. Ultimate in from Ice will secure the kill onto it, but Kalas falls immediately afterward. Tarim getting the credit for it. Spudio to the backline. Wolfie being dove by Tarim under that tier 2 tower.
Right.
Okeanos cannot save him long enough. Tarim trying to get his way out of the tower, and it looks like he is going to make it out. Nobody was able to get that final tick of damage. Now Deathwalker's in trouble. Dove on by Spudio and taken down by Deathwalker. Okeanos still had ultimate throughout that, and he ends up having to use it just to get out of danger. A 1-for-4 trade and an Oni Fury in favor of Elysium. Oh, by the way, now that's tier 1 tower.
Look, I'm going to tell you, a lot of this game has been close and I think kind of teetering on the edge. That was just disastrous for accounting department. I don't even know where things go wrong. Like, the engage around the Oni Fury felt a little weird. We saw, like you had mentioned, like Kalas blinked in, ults, and then nothing happens. Nothing happens. Nothing happens. So Deathwalker's on the tree, and then they jump on the CC immune Sobek. Like, there was a lot of weird engagement there for accounting department to begin with. Maybe an overcommitment at the front, and then just wrong place, wrong time. All right, 1-for-1, you lose Trixtank for Kalas. I think that's in favor of accounting department because of the way things, like farm specifically, has been going. 4-level deficit there in the jungle. Ice level 16 to the 20 that adapting has ticked over to. But then you lose mid and jungle and solo on top of it. And Tarim walking out of there alive, running under the tower like the menace he is, really kind of dictates why things are a little rough and why I'd hope to see maybe a little more either A, Deathwalker presence, or B, Bruiser nature from Ice. It feels like they've kind of split this weird difference where when Deathwalker is there and aware, it's not quite been enough for the team, and when Ice gets aggressive, unfortunately right now, he's getting melted.
Deathwalker is just kind of being bullied here by the 2 frontliners of Elysium. Not much kill potential for the 2 of them, but at least they can send him back, kind of force him to sit under this tower. But I mean, let's be honest here. Who on this accounting department team is killing Tarim at this point? I mean, look at how his build has gone. He's so tanky. He's got that Void Shield for a little bit of extra damage into his abilities and whatnot. But I mean, just look how tanky he is. He's level 20. No one else is level 20 except for Deathwalker. The next closest being Wolfie and Okeanos at 19, but they're not fully built up into their stocks just yet. You know, they don't have their full kit online. Okeanos is going to get plucked in by Trixtank. Not quite enough interrupt to keep Okeanos locked down. He'll be able to make it through the Bifrost, but I can't say the same for poor Kalas as he just gets bursted down. Spudio getting the kill with the Desert's Fury. That immediately causes a 4-5 power play in favor of Elysium for this Fire Giant.
I mean, and you get rid of what I would argue is one of the strongest. You can try to force this out. There's still good steal potential, I think, on the side of accounting department, specifically here in Deathwalker, but look at the way they're hovering this. You're going to force to either go in or use your ult. Either way, it's a win-win for Elysium, because if you jump in on that and they kill you and you use your ult, now you can't go for the same easy steal that Deathwalker would have had.
Well, they might be trying to get something here. Trixtank down to half. Adapting loses a nice little chunk to the Fire Giant. Okeanos managed to get through the Bifrost, but Tarim was creeping along the backside the whole time through. 2-man ult out of Ice, but it's onto the 2 frontliners, and they do not care about that damage. They'll chop down the tree, take down Okeanos, and get Deathwalker as an extra prize on it. 3 kills over the course of the fight for Okeanos, or for Spudio, I'm sorry, putting his 3 onto the board. And now back to the Fire Giant. Elysium goes, and you can just look down by the numbers. All golden experience in the way of Elysium for that fight. And the damage just absurdly high out of them. It feels like accounting department really doesn't even stand much of a chance anymore. now that Fire Giant's down Gore, their defense is going to have to come to these towers and Phoenixes. How is that looking for Accounting Department?
I give up towers, I think. I don't think there's much that I'm going to risk my life over for a tier 2 tower here. Look, you're already behind in gold by 10k. A lot more gold in their favor is going to hurt, but it's not going to be the end-all be-all, especially, like, I mean, look, if Adapting's doing this under your tier 2 for free, yeah, a team fight's not going to be what's going to happen, right? You need to be a lot more careful, and admittedly, like you had mentioned, Jets now ticked to 20 there for Wolfie, but I think Okeanos, some of those back camps are going to look pretty tasty. I think Ice drastically needs to catch up. He is the same level as his support, which is a level down as a jungler from the other team's support. That is not, I can't emphasize enough, not what you want out of your jungle. And so I think this is going to be a long-term play, right? Go for the Phoenix defense that's going to exist for Accounting Department. And that's where I do think things start to favor them a little bit. I think they have a really good, just kind of forced area team fight, right? When you walk into a Phoenix, it's a lot smaller, right? No matter what. If you're the aggressing team, you're forced into this area. Even if somebody's looping around, you have a lot less wiggle room than, say, a Fire Giant fight or an Oni Fury fight, things like that. And I think that benefits the AoEs that Ice is bringing, as well as the control where his pluck can go, forcing people to fight under the Phoenix that maybe don't want to be under the Phoenix, but also allows for Deathwalker to really reposition, kind of disrupt the backline for Elysium with an ult. We should theoretically see Kalas and Wolfie have a lot of very high priority and power around a Phoenix defense. So I really like what Accounting Department are going to bring. The problem I have is going to be survivability. All of the people that I've listed have pretty much all died instantly in the last few fights.
Oh, we see instantly Ice goes in with a Blink ultimate, but he's lost about a quarter of his health. They're able to trade it too quick off the bat. Angry and Spudio fall down thanks to the help of Deathwalker diving the backline for it. Now Trick's taking Tarum, forced to run, adapting full health. Can't do anything to help them out. Deathwalker trying to slow them down as much as he can. He dashes in onto Tarum, but Tarum gets into that rage transformation. Trix Tank lurking along the side just to make sure that Tarum can get out. Meanwhile, Adapting sticks back to the Phoenix, and he is shredding that Phoenix. That is going to be the only trade that they're going to get out of that. They lose two, but they just get a free mid lane bird.
It's good and bad. Like, I think it just comes out weight-wise, scales-wise, maybe not neutral. Now favoring Accounting Department as they look to make some tears and some towers. That is going to tip the scales back in their favor a little bit. And the other thing I should point out, even though he's not on this side of the map just yet, he's taking his sweet time getting over here. Granted, it's a slow tree. It's going to take a little while to get anywhere. But Ice went from 17 to now 20 in the blink of an eye. He went from 17 to 19 with just the 2 kills, and then from 19 to 20 in a few seconds afterward. He spent a little bit of time there in base, so that shows the bounty of killing someone like Angry and Spudio. Getting those 2 kills was very important, specifically being a part of them for Ice. Very important. They get that tier 2. They lose out on a speed buff, so maybe going to end up slowing down Ice even more, but he's got a purple buff, so I don't think he's too worried about it. There's a lot of avenues still for Accounting Department here, J-Mac. That's the thing that's really getting to me. With Phoenix exposed, they're still 3 towers up. They are not anywhere near what I would argue is a quote-unquote win state, but they've been able to knock down the towers enough on left side that if they win a fight, there is a way to the Titan for them, an easy path to the Titan for them to at least try and make things a little more disruptive on the side of Elysium. Ideally, they can knock down that tier 1 in mid. It's going to be difficult with the fire minions coming down, but that would definitely help even out the playing field for them just a tick more to really help things go more or less in their favor.
I don't want to chop up to disrespect here, but it really feels like that 3-2 split was kind of uncalled for from Elysium. They really, I feel that they were looking at that gold lead and going, yeah, that's 13, 14 plus thousand gold. We're in the lead. We've got these fights, no problem. We're just one-shotting anybody that comes near us, and they split themselves 3-2 on that left Phoenix 3 mid 2. But everybody was on Accounting Department's left side Phoenix there. Everybody was ready to defend where the brunt of the players were, and they took advantage of that situation perfectly. I mean, you got to see a perfect blink ult out of Ice. That's probably the best ultimate we've seen out of him all game. Hits the 2 carries with it, who are the ones that he's going to do the most damage to, especially with this build. But now we're seeing a defense here on this right side. Bird, it will still fall down. Adapting is going to be the one to make sure and secure it to take it down. Pallet's going to dash aggressively in. Trix Tank jukes out the stun. He's not out of danger just yet, or maybe he is with Tarum blinking into the back. He's going to get a 5-man knockup with the ultimate. Tarum still diving in. Wolfie Has to use the Aegis just to live through the war cry, but it's not enough. Tarim is still on the chase, and he'll find blood along with Angry, taking down Ice Ice. Only 3 left. Okeanos will send 1 away, but it's only to delay the inevitable. Angry falls down, but Adapting's got a double kill, and only Kalas is left. The support is not going to be enough to stop the onslaught. Triple kill out of Adapting to end game 1 and bring it to a close just shy of a half hour.
Man, if I'm being honest with you, I was mentally preparing. I was like, all right, they've got a good defense. Let's look at where their offense can be. I was preparing for a whole other speech, a little more time after that one, something to be going on, because I thought that there was a good chance for a accounting department to find the defense there. But unfortunately for them, and I think really well played in red from Elysium, they recognize that not only they have the minion advantage over there on right, but they get aggressive, I think, faster than accounting department were ready to really react to, and that Phoenix was gone way before they really had a good chance to try and disrupt it, and that just made things so much easier. Plus, Adapting gets a triple kill. Look, he just looks good in the jungle. Granted, I don't know that he had a lot to really oppose him on the other side. I like Sylvanas. I like Double Hunter. I like a lot of maybe what came through. I just don't know that I like the Sylvanas jungle part, or maybe if it comes through again, if Ice Ice can just clean it up and get some more farm online earlier.
Unfortunately for accounting department, the kind of silly composition they've ran didn't quite work out for them. We'll break down that game just a little bit more just after this break.
Talking on my back, go figure. Whole team eats fun splitter. Never was the one to go flicker. No face, no case, no picture. Full place, big stakes, my dinner. Flip that, Canal Street. Flip back. Last week, old money. This week, new racks. Never buy 9 more. If I can't afford to gift wrap, stunning in your foreign car. You keep buying rental tags. Heard you rollie as a lean, we are not the same. Couple thousand in my pocket, this pocket chip. Rubber bands on my arm, this is not for play. I put 20 on the crib while you cop a chain. I know they hate it or love it. You know I love when they hate it. Last year was living basic. Haters on the other side. 3 up, read between the lines. Know I got some majors with me. Made it through some evil times. Late night on some demon time. Pour the Sprite, I need a line. I can't lock it, sweet line. Freak time. Brainstorm. You can assume with your chains on. I can see none with the lights off. Cap, you been the main one. Coolin' when I got my mains on. Show money, but those aren't the same ones. I been told you that it was game on. Been winning since I was on game 1. Go. Telling me how to live like you made me. Go dumb and I blame you made me. Money longer than a grown-up baby. Got crazy in a new Mercedes. Thinking that's 550. 5 seats, 50 kids in there. Prime steak on my dinner plate. Nike tag for the dinner wear. Flex up, never playing dress up. Never gonna let up. Never, ever set up. Play with my fam, get wet up. Go, won't let up. Never, ever. Haters on the other side. 3 up, read between the lines. Know I got some majors with me. Made it through some evil time. Late night on some demon time. Pour the Sprite, I need a line. I can't lock it, see the line. Freak time.
I don't know if I'm okay. I don't see the light of day. Looking up to higher ground, thinking that'll be your sweet escape. These days gotta schedule the romance. They say that love is a slow dance. A short bike ride to the crib, using no hands. So did it feel like I'm floating? But I'm falling with both eyes closed when I let the world spin. Testing the water, she got my nerves tense. Back when I ain't even have a purpose, I was so eager to learn some things. Anxiety bring out the worst in me. Society paint me as enemy. My making it by that remedy. I'm more occasional, don't do it regularly. Backs under my eyes, weighing down heavily. Mama been worried, the devil allegedly deep in the plan. Subconsciously wanted it since I was 10. I thought I was sharp on my scroll and my pen thinking dead. So mama found she to them legs. She told me that's not who I am. But nowadays I put on for the fam, see you when I can. I'm surrounded by my feelings, I'm stuck on a Ferris wheel. I bet I perish with 140 acres. She want the horse and the carriage, a porcelain portion of garbage. I talk to the mirror, I know that life's not the fairest. I lost my can, I can't pay off the bills with the blessing. Not sure I relate to the Reddit page. It's feeling like money is everything. Money is everything. It's everything I need. Till I lay my eyes on you. I don't know what this is.
And welcome back after game one of kind of a crazier draft there from accounting department. We'll see if there's any kind of sense of normalcy coming more into game number two. But going back into that game, we saw the Sylvanas get locked in. We saw the Ratatosk early on. You look in these first three, and we're kind of set in, now not entirely set in stone, Gore, as to what we think this draft is going. We're like, there's some ambiguity here with this Ratatosker. But then we saw the Sylvanas, we're like, okay, we know where Sylvanas is going. And then Terra's locked in, and we're like, okay, we still kind of know where it's going, and then they still somehow throw us for a loop onto it. And unfortunately, it just doesn't feel like that offered enough. It felt like the idea they went for, Gore, only ever got off one time in that fight, and now it's at that left Phoenix defense.
Look, in theory, Sylvanas brings prot shred, he brings healing, he gives you prots, he has a lot of CC and disruption. A lot of those things sound really great. A lot of them didn't happen this game, or at least that we got to see often enough to really make it feel worthwhile. And I don't know if it was necessarily the Sylvanas pick itself, if it was the jungle role, if it was just the state of the game, the way Elysium played. Because, I mean, look at this. Like, Tarum, this was, I think, what, the second time? Yeah, that's the second time he did that exact move. They dove the Tier 2 tower several times. They had a lot of control. There was, the Sobek on her lane definitely was dictating the pace of the duo lane early on, and I think that pluck into specifically the Impale was just hit too often, and I think that's a big problem. Maybe this works out better if there's not a Sobek on the other side, but with the lack of mobility specifically coming from the Sylvanas, it made it a lot easier to just pick on the jungler there for accounting department, and Elysium didn't ever really seem too stressed about how they needed to lock him down in any way.
Yeah, I think if you want to go for this kind of crazier composition that the accounting department goes for, I don't think that you should give the enemy team that in response. I don't think that the enemy team should be allowed to first three Sobek on her Kakulin. That's kind of a cardinal sin just to begin with, and then you go for this more kind of outlandish composition on top of it. Sure, you might have the responses for it, but then they also give them a Nemesis, and then they give them a Raijin on top of it. I feel that this composition that accounting department had can be good. It can be really good. But the problem is they gave them something that was just on paper a better composition on the whole over to the number one seed in the SCC.
And I think a lot of it just comes down to, like, Trixang Sobek has been a problem for, well, I was going to say decades. Almost a decade, yeah, at this point. But it has been a sincere and difficult problem for a lot of people to deal with it, and I think it's something that we've seen banned against them in the past. I wouldn't be surprised if that's an avenue that they go towards for this next game. Either ban it, take it away, it depends on whether or not they take first pick, but if you do give it over to them, you got to pick some gods that can survive the pluck somehow, whether it's tankiness or if they have some mobility to escape it, one of the two.
Well, we'll see if they make a response onto that one. Picks and bans, game number 2. And if I'm looking straight away, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head here. You got to take that Sobek out of his hands some way or another. Trixtank should not be allowed to play on that menace of a god in the support role. And to the extent that he did, early on 2v2 fights, he recognized, hey, this is a Terra. She's got her monolith or she's got her walls up at almost all times. I'm never going to get a pluck on this god. So what does he do? He turns his sights to Okeanos every single time, threads that needle every single time, and forces out Bifrost, Beads, and Ultimate basically on cooldown.
Well, I need to see accounting department taking first pick, like, adjusts enough to, at least for me, for them to potentially strip things away from Elysium and honestly force them into these awkward, like, okay, who are you going to ban now? Like, what you going to do to try and stop us? So I'm excited to see how they adapt to this, and I also like the fact that they are adapting to, well, not necessarily adapting, but to Tarum specifically. Adapting was what, like 10-2 and something, but a lot of that space was built by that Cucullin. And so I think they're kind of taking, again, appropriate approaches. Same thing for Elysium with that Osiris ban. And it makes things a little more interesting, I think, high octane here for Accounting Department.
Yeah, and they're going to instantly lock in that Sun Wukong, who was banned away from Deathwalker last game. So now having that option forward. We did see the Osiris band away, still showing a little bit of shade and respect over to him, but Trixtank picks up that Sobek yet again. It's something that, we kind of briefly touched, that he did really well on it game number 1. Probably don't give it to him again in game number 2. They're just going to let that one go in favor of getting Deathwalker his priority pickup. Not just the Sobek, but also the Heimdall, taking that one away from Okeanos, now putting it into Spudio's hands.
I would say, though, it feels like it is a weird... I think it was a power dynamic. This Heimdall coming through... Look, I think Heimdall's a great carry. I think Heimdall Sobek's a great lane. But Sobek on her just hits a little harder. I think just through control, the pluck into the Impale was, I think, where a lot of that power came early game. And we saw that synergy. I mean, you could run the highlight reel back. Almost every pluck is followed by an Impale. Heimdall has some of that same potential, but nowhere near the same damage output, at least not immediately, that Anher is going to give. And so right now I'm looking at Elysium, especially depending on where this Camazotz go, and it feels like it's going to be a little slower paced. I'm not sure I like maybe the adjustments, or at least the full adjustments they're making. I'm wondering at least if Heimdall's going to be able to keep up with that Anher on the other side.
Yeah, that's going to be the big question mark onto that one, is how is, now that you fought against it, now that you kind of saw how this matchup goes forward, how are you going to respond to it? They still have that Sobek onto the flip side. The support hasn't been locked in for the side of Accounting Department. Maybe looking to hold that here, obviously, until after Elysium has made their final pick. But we do see the Terra band away, and I think that does still show some respect over there towards Kalos of, yeah, this god is still pretty good in your hands, even though it really didn't do all that much that game. There's still potential, especially now that you have Scylla on her as a follow-up, as opposed to the Chiron and the Heimdall on the flip side. Also, well, the Khepri band, flip side, we do see 2 mage bands, Raijin and Ra, being both taken away from Wolfie, both gods that he really does enjoy playing.
And I think not only that, limiting what Wolfie plays that, like you said, he enjoys. He loves going to things. I mean, Merlin's not going to be a bad pick for him. Neither is things like Agni. We saw that in the highlight reel before the first game. But I think it was trying to remove some synergy, once again, with the Sobek pluck. Like, Merlin has, I would argue, some pretty good damage and good burn. No matter who gets plucked, you're going to be feeling it with Merlin behind you. And I think that helps open up Elysium to get more kills. But I'm looking top to bottom for Accounting Department here, J-Mac, and it feels a lot better pretty much in every single role. I think everybody got a little bit of an upgrade. I mean, you could look at it, say, no solo lane feels like an upgrade, Rat to Sun Wukong. The biggest thing is, like, maybe net neutral there in mid and carry, but otherwise everyone around them feels better.
Well, Dodgy for a spicy last pick here on the side of Elysium, going into the hands of, I can only imagine, adapting. I don't think we'll see this Dodgy go anywhere else. But onto the flip side, kind of talking more onto this Accounting Department draft. It's a much more normal draft here. And while we wouldn't normally say that Fafnir is kind of normal, this is a Kalos pick. This is one of the few players in all of Smite history who has forced this specific god to be banned away from him for so many times. It was basically his namesake when he was coming up and rising in the SPL. So seeing him go back onto this one, seeing him go back to his comfort, to his tried and true god, I think this is going to be a much stronger performance out of Accounting Department, but they still got a heck of a composition to go up here against Elysium. Elysium has a lot of fight left in them, and coming off of that first win, they're on a bit of a hot streak for themselves.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that we get to look at, Accounting Department, top to bottom, feels better. But adapting, like you had mentioned, blocking in this Dodgy at the very end, feels very good right now. With no block stacks coming from an upgraded shell, it makes it a lot more difficult to lock them down. With Heimdall on the team, Camazotz on the team, like, you've got, like, some people that are, let's just kind of more ability-based. Like, Heimdall kind of touts the edge of that. He is obviously a hunter, does like to throw out autos, but still has some good abilities on him that make him a little, I don't even want to say hybrid, that's not even the right term, but he's going to have good damage output from multiple areas. Tarum, a little more ability-based. Yes, his autos are still going to be good and necessary, but there's some items that you would want to build against a team if they had 2 hunters and an auto-attack assassin. That would be a very easy choice for you. And are you going to build those just to slow down adapting, to slow down Spudio a little bit? That's going to be, I think, the issue accounting department has to approach here. Otherwise, adapting, I mean, he was playing Daji into bad matchups and doing well with her. Now he's picking her into, I think, good matchups, good control. I mean, what, 1 CC immunity, 2 CC, 3 CC, 4 CC immune ults on the side of accounting department makes it a little more difficult for him to consistently get anybody pulled in with the powwow. But that does mean that, especially since I see beads only picked up for 2 people on the side of accounting department, that he's going to either burn their beads or burn their ults if he's able to get his ults online.
I think an important one onto that is the one person who probably needed to pick up those beads, aka the only person without a CC immune ultimate, has instead elected to go for Blink. Ice has to be very careful in any matchup against adapting pre-level 12, because that ult is going to be a death sentence for Ice, especially if Angry is anywhere in the vicinity of that. You might as well just call them dead. But we see Ice actually battling it out for a back camp on second spawn. He manages to steal that one away, get the larger Harpy at least from the back camp, taking that from adapting.
I mean, being able to... At this point, I would argue anything that Ice can do to convince me that he can keep up with adapting this game compared to last game is going to be a big win for him. And that's not something... I think Ice is fully capable of it. I just think last game we got some of the furthest behind that I've gotten to see a jungle in a while, right? I mean, there was a point where he was behind Trix Tank. That is never where you want to be. So I'm going to be watching his farm and specifically his levels very carefully already. Maybe like a half level behind adapting. Not a big deal, but whoever gets 5 first is definitely going to be more impactful, especially if it goes to adapting. I think Nemesis is great at level 5, but her ult isn't like the Hunbat's ult that we talk about. It's not the powwow. It's not the end-all be-all.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
Tank gets a mispluck there. Probably the first one we've seen from him this set. And it spills first blood for the side of accounting department yet again. They're able to get that first blood. That was all on the capitalization of that mispluck by Trixang, and great body blocking from them in order to get that one.
Especially forcing him, like, the first shot from the tower, that was Trixtank's pluck. The second shot from the tower was Trixtank taking the only path out that he could. Nice.
He might be in a little bit of a danger there, but Deathwalker is here with the stun off the 72 transformations. Good cudgel. We'll put adapting low. Ice blinks around the back to reposition. Get away from Tarum, who gets stunned out by the hammer from the Fafnir. Slowed down by the horrific emblem. And Ice with the double dash will make sure to confirm the second kill for accounting department. Trixtank still, though, lurking in the area.
I think this is going to be a moment. Ice getting aggressive there. Like, I feel like we're really starting to see... What, again, just the change, right? How many times did we get to say Ice getting aggressive at all in game 1? I don't think we did once. Maybe there was once in the first 5 minutes there in mid, but not a whole lot of it. So I'm going to be watching with anticipation, specifically at what Ice is going to be able to do. But I'm also going to be interested, as time goes on, Deathwalker, we didn't get to see a whole lot of him. Like, realistically, the right side of the map for accounting department just didn't, I don't want to say didn't exist, but didn't impact the game, which I don't know if it feels any better to hear that for him. But it's definitely something that I want to see more of this game. I want to see more Deathwalker. I want to see more Ice.
Or might be seeing a little bit more of it. We saw the leap in from Kalas to stop adapting's back. Ice is going to go in. Ice is level 5, has used that ultimate already, but adapting is going to be able to make it out thanks to the help of Angry and Trixang. Now Tarum with his own ultimate at level 5. They're going to get a pluck onto Ice, fling him against the wall and right into the hands of Angry to get their first return kill on the board for Elysium. Just really punishing this over-aggressive playstyle of accounting department.
Yeah, that one, I feel like there was a little bit of over-aggression that started and looked like it could be fruitful and actually could be able to result in something good. What we're seeing, I think, one from Ice, maybe even a little bit here from Deathwalker. This one's over-aggression. Ice with some tunnel vision. Deathwalker, though, it's Wukong. So should be fine getting out of here. Should have the cooldown up for his dash no matter what, and that Ox Swarm's going to be nice. But Trixtank's still in the area. Like, anytime that pluck is up, J-Mac, I'm on thin ice at that point, right? You're very, very scared and very worried. It's going to be a solid pickup for them. At least staying alive there is good for Deathwalker. You need to be a little more careful, I want to say, with that, like you had said, with that aggression coming down from accounting department, just a little more cautious as to how deep you go and how far you chase.
Collis, you're only level 3. I don't know if walking up to a level 7 Merlin is your best call at the moment. Both these supports electing for a lot more fighting than farming. Normally we see them at least level 4, borderlining level 5 at this point. And because of how much fighting has gone down, Collis and Trixtank really haven't had much of a chance to farm. It looks like the Harpies there, the Oracles, will get split 1-1, so no vision control for either team. It looked like there's going to be a fight really breaking down after them. Now you can see Trixtank walking up towards enemy jungle. These supports just have one thing on their mind, and it is violence. These guys woke up and decided we're just going to fight no matter what in game number 2.
And hey, look, after game 1 where they didn't fight pretty much at all, or at least when they did, it didn't go their way, I kind of like it. So it's going to be aggression, at least for this time being. And it's all across the map, J-Mac. I mean, a little bit of pressure here, a little bit of pressure there. They've got a better suited comp for it this time around. In fact, they could even find a kill here on Taro.
Well, they're going to get the slice and dice, and that's all she wrote. Ice gets a rotation over, gets a little bit of damage, says, all right, Deathwalker, here's your totem. Have fun. Go about your merry way. Or instead, gives them a little nod over towards Greater Scorpion. They're going to start it up, but it looked like with just a little step over the ward there, they had to back away, but they bring it right to the edge of the Fire Giant pit. 6.5 minutes. Fire Giant Scorpion taken down. Adapting, still playing aggressive up here. Level 6 on this Dodgy. Gonna try and create some space for his team. They've already lost out on the first Scorpion.
Something small that you would think about, but it's going to be a big impact. Like, could really result in, again, small things, but a little more CDR coming from that blue buff, which honestly on Wukong feels good, right? I think for the speed buff as well, being able to be a little more impactful coming out from Ice is a scary thought. Although right now, I think it's because they swiped some away. I'm looking at it. Ice has a red buff as well as Wolfie, and Collis has a speed buff. So it's definitely something that is going to have to change here. Ice with that red buff wearing off from what they stole earlier. He's not going to be back in time to get another one, but maybe running around a little speedless for a little while. That might impact, at least the impact he gives on the game for right now. It might slow him down just a smidge. Speaking of slowing down just a smidge, J-Mac, last game we weren't talking a lot about the solo lane. This game I feel like I haven't really seen much or heard much from Angry and Wolfie. But not for really bad reason. I mean, Angry isn't necessarily on a god early on. Merlin that I'm thinking is going to be popping off. And same thing, I guess, could be said there for Wolfie on the Scylla. But now that he's level 9, I'm starting to expect a little bit more out of Wolfie, especially with the combos around him. Good slows, good stuns, good setup in that 3v3. I'm going to start seeing some kills come up for Wolfie.
The thing is, they really haven't been focusing a lot of pressure towards mid. A lot of it's been towards the solo lane side. So, in all honesty, unless it's in their jungle, Wolfie and Angry haven't had much chance to fight. They've kind of just been in farm mode. That's just been the nature of their gameplay so far. Angry getting a little bit of extra farm just because of the kill that he did get a chance to be a part of. In fact, the kill that he did get of the over-aggression in their jungle the last time around. So that's the only real lead that we've seen build up amongst these teams. You see about a half level into the solo lane, and the First Blood bounty kind of giving them a little bit of extra advantage onto. You see Accounting Department about 1,500 gold in favor so far over Elysium, but not much else beyond there. It's been a couple of slap boxes here and there, throw an ability, try and steal a camp away from them, little fight over those Oracles last time, but outside of that, and outside of the couple of fights in solo very early, it's been relatively quiet these last few minutes.
Yeah, and we're starting to see, I think, hints of aggression from Elysium more than Accounting Department, even though they've been the ones on the side of Accounting Department kind of dictating most of this pace. I think it's around this gold period. Starting up, yeah, red buff be damned. I think if they win this, they can fall back on something.
Looking for something. Wolfie's not going to make it out as Adapting finds him on the back end of it. Adapting walks right through the Draconic Transformation, and now that ult is gone. He's going to yank Kalas right back in after the leap, too. Double kill for Adapting. Ice trying to get something for himself, but he's not able to find anything. Okeanos falls, Spunio gets the credit, and Ice won't even get anything as Adapting rotates for an early triple kill on the Dodgy. That puts him in a huge lead and brings Elysium right back into the game.
Look, he was doing it well with Dodgy. I said this earlier, before Dodgy, I think, was going to be good. And into bad matchups for Dodgy, and he still was able to make it work. Now he's doing it into not only good matchups for him, even though maybe the ult isn't going to have quite, say, quote-unquote, the synergy you want. Obviously, that's not going to matter too much to the King. 3-0-1 here for him as he's running around. And it feels so difficult to control. I feel like it's a slow burn right now from Elysium. Now they're about 1,000 gold ahead, a little under, as things continue ticking forward, which is favorable for Accounting Department. The fact that it's not an insane lead for Elysium means that they're still very much in this. But J-Mac, I'm having deja vu. I'm saying that exact sentence, and all I can think about is the fact that we were talking about that in Game 1. I mean, that's exactly where they were. Accounting Department just a smidge behind, nothing too crazy, but they weren't able to make anything work. Granted, they had a Sylvanas who was about 3 levels down at that point, so that was definitely a big impact for him. But I look at hi-rez, he's level 9 to Adapting's level 11. The triple kill helps out in that deficit, but I don't think this is the matchup and fight that you want. Maybe with some
I don't know
help.
about that one. He gets a nice little shield there, and Wolfie makes his presence known, throws out the crush to get her kill onto Adapting. That's going to slow him down just a little bit and get those two some extra much-needed experience and farm for themselves. And that's the one benefit that it feels that Nemesis has over Dodgy is without the ultimate, Dodgy is just all damage. And what does Nemesis love? People who can't break that shield, aka the Dodgy in this case. Okeanos, he's not going to have fun coming right back out for the ultimate out of Spudio there, but I mean, without that ultimate, this matchup, even with that 2-level deficit, really still kind of does favor this Nemesis just with that shield alone.
Yeah, being able to survive and just tank a little bit extra, it's going to be able to, like you said, favor hi-rez here. Some of those trades, granted, Wolfie also came in for the assist there. I think that is the big bonus that comes through. Mainly only helps with the crush, but that's the other talking point. I think looking at it, hi-rez is going to be good in these team fights. I think around an objective base, jungler to jungler, hi-rez is good at maybe forcing a frontliner on Elysium to feel awkward, whereas Adapting's going to be good at making all of the backliners a little more scared. But the thing that Wolfie brings more than Angry brings, and I think I mention this every time I see a Merlin in the game, and it's going to be the secure. The burn for Angry is going to be unmatched. He's going to absolutely decimate the health bars of a Fury, of a Fire Giant, of a Pyromancer, what have you. But Wolfie's got that ult, and nothing beats that ult in this lobby at confirming the objective. Maybe you could look towards Okeanos as technically having the next best secure, but he's on the same team, so it's not like he's even worried about it, right? So I think there's a lot of merit to Accounting Department, specifically around some of these objectives, if not in anything, at least in steal potential for them. So I'm going to be excited when we start seeing Fire Giants, the next Fury that comes up, specifically how Accounting Department turn to approach it, where exactly their eyes go, what they want to do with it. And there's a lot of options for them in terms of I want to say, attacking the team fights. But I want to know how they're going to approach it. Is hi-rez going to lead the way? Is it going to be Deathwalker, Collis? Where exactly they put the pressure on, and who is going to be the one creating it?
I think a big thing that, you know, we kind of didn't even point out, there's been so much fighting that's happened in the last few minutes. But Angry built a Charon's coin and already has 3 stacks on it from that last fight alone. He's nearly halfway to it with 1 team fight. And that item, when fully stacked up, can provide a lot of extra stats for yourself. That extra movement speed is going to be a big thing for this. Not immobile mage, but less than mobile. Flicker doesn't go a super far distance. It's not the furthest of any of the mobilities of the mages. But that extra little bit of mobility, especially in the midst of a team fight, will really help him out. We'll see where he elects to dash out the rest of his build. We see the Spear of Desolation. And in response, Wolfie has also built up this Charon's coin. How do you feel about the responding Charon coin against Angry?
Now, it's really weird. So Charon's coin, and, you know, it got a small buff, I think in 8.5, maybe not the bonus. I can't remember which one. Either way, it's made a little more, let's say, better. Yeah, and there you can see like 90 magical power. You get pin early on, which is going to be really big. I think bigger for Wolfie just now coming online. Going to see him be more impactful. But like you said, look at the fact that there's 3 stacks online already for Angry versus what we're going to have to, I'm going to say, presume wait a little while for Wolfie. Like, the kills have been coming out for Accounting Department, but not often. Even now, Wolfie is playing a little more defense. Look at the burn that comes through onto him. And I think that's really where Angry's at. The power items that he has online now, while technically having a mass sum slightly less than what Wolfie has, those 3 stacks I think are going to make the bigger difference for him. And ultimately, with Spear of Desolation, whatever he goes next, he's soon going to match up that power that Rod of Tahuti is giving. and pass it. And if he's already finding some good burn onto Wolfie like we just saw, I think Wolfie's going to not necessarily struggle to find these stacks, but he's definitely going to have to work for them a lot harder.
Yeah, Angry going for this kind of hybrid of penetration. You have the 20% pen that we saw out of the Charon's coin, and then the flat pen coming out of Desolation, where Wolfie hasn't elected for a flat pen item just yet, going with that Rod to Hootie, which has kind of been a staple second, third item out of mid laners for what seems like almost the entire season now. Mid laners have been picking that up within the first 3 items, sometimes even rushing it right after the boots, like we saw Wolfie do. And it's just going to offer that extra percent pen. So right now, Wolfie's got a lot of percent pen. So late game, he's going to swing like a truck on any tank that has those magical procs. But into this early game, not quite as valued as that flat pen's going to be, especially against those squishier targets.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of those things that it always comes into the conversation when you see the flat pen, where it's just... It feels like such a small stat, but it's going to be very helpful, especially against squishies, which Deathwalker right now is having some trouble dealing with himself.
Deathwalker might get pulled in by his pal Lau unless he elects to use his beads. Ice gonna wait it out as well. He'll lose that bubble that he had built up instead. Deathwalker not gonna use the beads. Kalos transforming, but immediately leaping out. So out of that fight, Adapting gets a Magi's Blessing, and that's really about it. Gets a blink out of Ice as well, it seems, but I think the bigger thing is no beads had to get used for that pal Lau.
Yeah, a big win for them. Magi's is a much faster reset there for Ice. It's only 45 seconds out, as opposed to, at this point, what would be still, 140 seconds out for beads? Like, we're waiting way less time for Ice to feel confident. And that's a really good item pickup. It does slow down his build a little bit, but it's going to keep him a lot safer and allow for things like that. A very close call on a Pyromancer, but still something they're able to confirm there on Accounting Department. And JMac, as much, this is a really weird graph. When the gold is going 1,300 in favor of Accounting Department, at this point in the game, 17 minutes on, that's going to become the more important number, but 2,600 experience is nothing to scoff at, and those levels are going to make a big difference. And you can see Kalos is down by 1, and so a lot of that has to be, looking there into the jungle. There's a 2-level lead.
Ooh, Wolfie a little bit late on those beads, and it looks like he might be late to the grave. Adapting will send him there on a delayed timer for it, and they'll throw Kalos in the wings of it too. Spudio getting the credit for that one. Late beads, Aegis kind of in one of the, kind of that Zapman Aegis, you're going to die, but you kind of delayed the inevitable. Adapting was right on top of him, and any of those bleeds were going to be more than enough to take him down at that point. You might be looking for another one as well. Okeano's up. And immediately Desert's Fury expended just to get away from Pal Lau. Sets up for Primal Fury to be taken by Elysium.
Now that jungle gap, 3 levels in favor of Adapting as he picks up his 4th kill for the game. He's got half the kills of his team, 2 assists as well, so he's only not affected 2 of the total kills they've been able to pick up. Plus he forces out the ult from Okeanos, like you said, the beads, now the Aegis down for Wolfie, ult down there for Ice. Magi's comes back up, so theoretically he's going to be, let's call it, quote-unquote, safe in the next fight. But I think there's a lot of opportunity here for Elysium to take this and start to get the ball rolling. Again, it's not a huge lead for him. 400, 300 gold as it fluctuates from wave to wave? Like, they are not really, I don't want to say grinding as hard as you would think to have that massive lead, which opens up the door for Accounting Department. Right now, it's all about the farm. I think if Ice can play catch-up, if Ice can continue to impact the game in any way, and eventually maybe even do what we saw in Sylvanas last game, where he gets a couple of kills and jumps up 2 to 3 levels in the blink of an eye, I think that we're going to start seeing Accounting Department fight back. But that's where their losing battle really is. Their gold and their farm has been really on point from both squads, and their objective control has been decently on point for both squads, a little more in favor of Elysium. But I think if they can get the levels caught back up here and let the jungle have the impact that it needs to have here, especially against what Adapting's doing, then they're going to be in there at much easier space for potentially pushing us to a Game 3. Otherwise, they're just slowing down Elysium and not really forcing them into bad scenarios just yet.
I think a point that I'll probably at least bring it up until we see some stacks come online for Wolfie, but this Charon's coin still not bringing that same level of value for him as it is for Angry. Angry's got 5 stacks on it now, only 3 away from maxing it out. Meanwhile, Wolfie has been struggling to get anything going. No assists on the board for him, only 3 kills for the team, and he got that first kill before he had picked up that Charon's coin. So far he's not getting that same level of value in the build. He finished out with the Soul Gem, so again, overall, he has more power just because he has that Rada Tahuti. He's got a lot of percent pen, but right now, I'm not seeing a full value going through with this build.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that it's slowing down a little bit. I think it's just because Angry picked it up first, that Charon's coin now fully stacked for him, that it feels like it's paying off a little bit more, right? Like being able to get the 5 stacks online, Spear of Desolation. It's theoretically, like looking at it like par for par, Spear of Deso, Rada Tahuti, they have different like minor stats on there. Like we had talked about the flat pin a little bit earlier, but like power-wise, it's what, 140 versus 110? Like there's a 30 difference total, which is probably made up for there by the stacks on that Charon's coin. So realistically, Angry is just ahead at this point in the build and feels way more comfortable and confident. In fact, so much so that they're even starting up a Fire Giant. It's dying fast, but this is a lot of opportunity for accounting.
Nev Secure is going to be the big thing for it. Elysium do manage to get the Fire Giant, but what cost beyond there? Transformation out of Kalas. He's going to get a little bit of damage onto Trix Tank. A Sunder comes out, and it looks like it was on to the wrong target there. They hit that decoy with that Sunder from Trix Tank. A little bit of a misplay there, but it's fine for them. They're able to get out of the fight squeaky clean and alive, losing out a couple of big important relics, though. You see Beads taken off of 3 players, it looks like.
Yeah, it looks like it's going to be a good burn for them if they can hold on to that. Iga's still up, Beads still up for Spudio. And always weird when the team with Fire Giant is the first one to lose a tower when they get the Fire Giant, but I feel like that's going to be the one clapback that Accounting Department truly get in this scenario. Elysium, I mean, after the way they first off, they burned that Fire Giant so quickly that even though Accounting Department were ready to reply to it, it still felt like they were there almost too late. But I think that's going to cause trouble, like Deathwalker, Kalas. That's the kind of burn they're going to be facing if they get all in by Elysium. Tier 1 towers mean nothing. You might be able to mount a Tier 2 defense here, but I'm once again looking towards these Phoenixes if I'm Accounting Department. It was a good spot for them last time, at least held off a little bit, but didn't quite get them the win that they would have wanted. In fact, it didn't get them the win at all. So they're going to have to figure out how to defend this one. I'm not sure if I build up a resistance here. In fact, I'm a little worried. I'm looking at Wolfie, Deathwalker, Ice. Like, I don't know if I want this fight.
Deathwalker, he's going to get found by Trix Tank, flushed into the middle of 5 players, and he's forced up onto the Somersault Cloud instantly. Barely managed to get up there without a quarter of his health to spare. He lands down, but he gets grabbed by the Palau, forced to Beads out of the bird form to make sure he doesn't get yanked back in. That's all defensives off the board for Deathwalker. He's forced all the way back to the fountain. Meanwhile, Tier 1 and Tier 2 of solo lane shredded down by Elysium. 2 towers left for them to take. But for now, they'll turn their sights towards the Greater Scorpion, steal that one off the Accounting Department's side of the map, and boost up those camps on their side.
Little under 2 minutes left for the Fire Giant power play as well, so like they're in good control right now, a good pace. It is enough to make me question at this point a Phoenix and whether or not they're going to be able to knock it down. But if they run it down left or mid, either way, they're going to be open for pretty much at least one Tier 2. And they should, if they don't focus both Tier 2s, be able to find themselves a Phoenix as well. Now there's a Fury fight that's going to go on.
Also, Fury started up and taken by Accounting Department, so despite the advantage of having the Fire Giant, Elysium losing out on a little bit of the objective here. Gold Fury, probably not the worst thing at this stage of the game for them to lose. Sure, you give up some gold over to the enemy team, but you're looking at taking about 3K more gold in just these 2 towers before you even look to take down the Phoenix. And, you know, it doesn't help the fact you also have Fire Giant. But looking back onto it, we're kind of in the same boat that we were last game with Ice's situation. He's only a level above the enemy support, where just a couple of moments ago before that Fury, he was on the same level of it. He's just been struggling in his farm game more than anything else in these 2 games. It's basically kind of made him almost a non-factor going into late game team fights. On this Nemesis, you have that ultimate, but how valuable is that ultimate on these Phoenix defenses when you're so far behind?
It's one of those things that luckily, you know, again, like Wolfie, Okeanos theoretically will capitalize on it. Like, there's other people on the team to utilize your ult better than you, but like you said, what are you gonna do, right? You ult, and at this point you're, what, just an ult bot? Like, that's not necessarily what you want to be, especially as Nemesis. There's a lot of control and pace that you could dictate, and admittedly, like look at what we just saw Adapting do last game. Like, you could pick up tons of kills on this Nemesis if played properly, but unfortunately right now, again, that level deficit that's been there for Ice has not been quite enough to count him fully out, but it's been enough that I haven't been looking on that side of the jungle too often, right? So it is definitely showcasing that it has not been as impactful maybe as you would like. 1, 2, and 1 as well. They've only got 3 kills on board, so affecting 2 of the 3 is really solid for Ice, but unfortunately, if you were the jungler, you'd like to be seeing a couple more of those coming through. They lose their last tier 2s. Fire Giant's going to spawn in, you know, a minute-ish around there, a little over, a little under, we'll see. And this is where things started falling apart, I think, fully in game number 1. And I'm not sure where you go for these fights. I don't know if it was a good fight for them to take around the tier 2 on right. I don't know if this is a 1v1 you truly want to take with a level deficit from adapting.
Oh, adapting and Ice both playing their matchup perfectly in that trade-off. Ice gets the ult, pops the shield right before adapting, thinks about going in, notices it, stops his damage immediately, says, I'm not going to play into this card again, waits it out, but unfortunately for him, there is still the double dash ready for Ice. They're able to at least get ultimate there, but Ice still stands with his Magi's Blessing available. Fire Giant started up one more time. It's only Deathwalker in the area to try and stop this one. Kalos Okeanos making their way through, leaping by Kalos, but it's too late. Elysium take Fire Giant. They almost take Deathwalker. Looking like they'll grab Kalos as soon as he's landed on the ground there. He's down to it low, but Spudio gets caught in the back. Ice manages to get a turnaround kill for the Wolfie, and Kalos getting low, but adapting has shown up to the fight. He picks up one and make that a second one. He takes down Wolfie quickly and swiftly. Mid laner down, 2 down for the side of the cannon department. Leap out of Okeanos, he's just buying time for as long as possible. He gets flung into the clutches of Tarum and a 3-1 swing in favor of Elysium. They lose 1 for that Fire Giant, but get 3 big kills after.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that they lose Spudio, but admittedly you've got adapting. Theoretically, that should be enough physical power to knock down a Phoenix. And I mean, what, 15 seconds until we see Kalos come back? I'm a little concerned. I feel like Elysium could have absolutely knocked... I mean, they still have so much time without really a big fight happening from accounting department anytime soon. Instead, they back off. They're going to be waiting for their hunter to come back before they get aggressive. I think there was an opportunity for an easy Phoenix there for them, but of course, I take the easy road. And they've been winning so handily anyway. I mean, adapting 6-1 and 3 right now. 9 out of 11 effective kills. Maybe even able to find another one here onto Deathwalker.
Good lord. That is a lot of damage onto Deathwalker. He's not gonna make it up into the Somersault Cloud. Now, I know adapting has a lot of damage. You look at that build and you're thinking, this is Glass Cannon Dodgy. Tried and true. Like, you want a one-shot of Squishy, here it is. I didn't think he was gonna do that to Deathwalker.
And that was a lot of damage, man. I'm still kind of reeling in it. That was way more than I think I expected. Deathwalker definitely, because he didn't quite channel the ult in time to get out of there. That's going to make things relatively easy for them. Still 4v5 under a Phoenix, technically acting as a quote-unquote 5th man while Deathwalker respawns. Should help out here on accounting department, but maybe it's not going to be enough. Minion wave not anywhere nearby here, but they don't seem to care. They're just going to go for the Phoenix.
Well, still pushing forward. Half health on the Phoenix. Left side is already down. Make that, well, 2 birds down. No contest coming out of accounting department. They're just going to let that one go. Fire Giant still has about a minute and a half left on its power play, and they're just going to strip the jungle of everything it holds. 2 Phoenixes for it. A nice pick onto Deathwalker. They've cleared out all the towers on the map. I mean, it feels like Elysium just have all the momentum. Now 10,000 gold in their favor as well. Elysium just feel like they're running away. What can accounting department really even do at this point?
Man, hope for the best, right? They have to defend 2 lanes for fire minions. The fact that they're getting a little aggressive on the left-hand side is a little worrisome to me. Right side, admittedly, they've got the wave pushed up, so they don't need to worry too much about it. They might be able to even grab a cheeky Primal Fury in there, but 10k gold down. Look at the items. You're feeling it still. If you're accounting department, they still need a couple of picks up. They've got upgraded starters though, and might even be able to get Trickstank here.
Oh, the pluck hit a minion. That's definitely spelling doom for Trickstank onto it. But it did take a lot to be able to take him down. He is a very tanky Crocodile, fully built up as well. All 6 items online. Very, very tanky on this Croc. I mean, we would have seen maybe the same response. You know, we saw what it took to kill Deathwalker. Basically, it felt like nothing. They're behind, but And I think they're still kind of feeling it. Like you said, these items still do matter. The fact that 5 nearly full-slotted characters could not take down Trixtank in, half the time that it probably was necessary to do it could still spell some problems for accounting department.
Yeah, I'm just trepidatious about their potential. I think they've caught up in levels for the most part. Right, Collis is still a little behind, but he is arguably the least important to hit 20, but also at this point, since he's the only one left to hit 20, now the most important to hit 20 for them. But Ice, Wolfie, Okeanos, what they're going to do in these team fights is going to be very important. They've been very, I want to say, timid in terms of approach so far. I also think that shows Elysium you can't just run around. Like, the map, yes, is yours. You've been dictating everything up to this point, but you can't just goof off and be isolated. They will find a way to kill you. It costs the blink for Deathwalker, but that's still going to be 50 seconds out. Not the end of the world. Every other relic is available right now. This is a really good spot for accounting department. I mean, Fire Minions pushed up on left. The Phoenix hasn't respawned yet, so it's going to take a little while, but they don't have to worry too much about it. Mid being pushed up right now by Deathwalker. They can at least try to contest this Fire Giant, even if things might not go their way.
Pluck onto Kalas, throws him into the clutches of Elysium, and about half his health to boot with it. Tear him down to the back, forces the bat out of hell, looking for his target. It's Okeanos, he dives right onto him, gets a nice screech, forces the ultimate, but Spunio takes down Deathwalker, and the dot from the Vampire Bats is enough. That's going to be a quick 3 swing as Kalas also falls into the back line. Only Wolfie and Ice left, and Ice is just delaying the inevitable out of the Lurking in the Waters into the pluck, and the knockback from the tail whip is going to more than guarantee that Ice will fall. It's only Wolfie left. He's got ultimate still, but he's got to go against 5 members of Elysium. Well, he doesn't even need 5. He's got to go against the 3 immediately in his face right now. He's going to go up for that ultimate. Aegis is going to be popped by Angry. He does not care about what Wolfie has to offer. And instead, Elysium will close out with a 2-0 victory and secure themselves another win here in the SCC, bringing their record now up to 7-1.
I don't know what hurts more there for Wolfie, whether it's the Aegis ult when you're just trying to get some damage out there, some sort of clapback, or the fact that even though he's there and present, the Order Titan's the one that gets the credit for the kill on to Tarum there. It's just an unfortunate scenario. Accounting department, they had a lot of opportunities to fight back in that one, but I think in both games, no matter where you slice it, there just wasn't enough jungle impact for me, especially compared to what Adapting was doing. But, I mean, Sylvanas at one point was 4 levels behind. I think we got to 3 levels behind there for the Nemesis. I think that the jungle control didn't exist. They didn't really get to dictate the pace of the fights they wanted either.
It just felt like there was not enough momentum for this squad. I think, like you said it perfectly, Icelight's just not quite able to get the ball rolling for himself and for his team onto. And with it, a 2-0 for the boys of Elysium. We'll break down that game when we come back in just a few minutes.
I can't stay. No, I always gotta go. Playing house, this ain't a home with my soul. On the road, I can't stay. No, I always gotta go. Playing house, this ain't a home with my soul. On the road,
I can't sit still for a minute. I'm so dead set on indifference. Keep it Charlie, stay down with them Dickens. Let's get around like it's the 80s, right? Round, let's keep spinning. Let's keep playing these games that we don't want to finish. And I'm sorry if that sounds a bit bitter, but I am to the core. You want the whole damn thing, then you ask him for more. You want that old jive swing, you take up all of the floor. I'm fine with standing at the edge of the door. You be the life of the party. I blend in with the core. You drink it all to Bacardi. Till the bottles no more. Let's take it back for this started. You want the love, I don't got it. Got my soul on the road. You screaming stay, baby please don't go. Don't think it's in me to listen to foe. It's so different with distance we roam into zones where nothing get hurt anymore. I just wish I was home when I stepped through front door, but instead I'm alone and completely unsure. And even though you're screaming out with the best of intentions, I don't get it. Why do you always gotta ask me to
stay.
Why you always gotta go? Playing house, this ain't a home with your soul on the road. Say, why you always gotta go? Playing house, this ain't a home with your soul on the road. See, I've been lost in my thoughts, and my thoughts they too scared to usher off. Sorry, Mom, I just thought you were my world. Now you're not. And I'm just sitting, smoking, sloping in a daze, cause my days ain't been the same since I drove here away. I remember the way you wrote letters in blue ink. You and me was in love. Think about what your crew think. I know your moms probably think I'm a bastard. Your pops probably want to beat my to death and take a in my casket. But I got sick of fighting, bickering, fussing over nothing, cussing. Instead of watching the death of discussions that we once had, days that we once spent in the backseat of our cars, reading poets at sunset. It's funny how love can fall out the foreground, get pushed into the back of your mind. We used to twist the spliff and laugh and relax. Now you crying, and I'm trying to find the reasons. So I ask, does forever ever happen, or is it always fade to black? I can't stay. No, I always gotta go. Playing house, this ain't a home with my soul on the road. I can't stay. No, I always gotta go. Playing house, this ain't a home with my soul on the road.
And just like that, another round of the EU SCC in the books. And this one coming out with Elysium on top, 2-0 over Accounting Department. They'll continue to extend their lead of first seed up now to 7-1. And that game, while a lot slower paced, felt just like a slower version of game number one. It felt like we kind of watched a repeat just with different rosters.
Yeah, I mean, very similar everything from top to bottom. I mean, like, Jungle's what fell behind early on. You get to see a big impact from adapting. It does kind of feel like maybe you could just take that and copy-paste it for most Elysium post-game discussions, but I think it was something that we really got to see follow the similar path. I liked the draft much better this time from Accounting Department. I think there were a lot more opportunities for them in this game where they were able to fight back and maybe be a little more adept at what they were trying to accomplish, but unfortunately a lot of those didn't get to come to fruition entirely, and some of it I have to say, yeah, adapting looked good. He's going to be the one getting a lot of the kills, but you also have to look at this displacement. Shrix Tank was really good at setting up kills. Same thing for Tarum in terms of diving the backline. Had a very easy time on this Camazotz, and it just feels like Elysium, admittedly, they're gonna it's just because they're difficult to ban out. They played everything incredibly well in 2 games, and they played a different overall composition. I mean, Trixtank got Sobek twice, but otherwise they were really able to flex around.
Yeah, I mean, I think putting Trixtank on Sobek 2 games in a row might be a bit of a sin there for Accounting Department, and probably any team moving forward probably wouldn't give that god over to Trixtank. He's been playing this game basically since it's existed, and has been playing this god basically since he's existed, almost that exact amount of same time frame onto that one. But I think the big thing in there, you know, we kind of talked about, especially you talked about how Dodgy may not be the best god. And especially in a composition where there's 4 gods who can just basically say, we don't care about your powwow. He played it way better than I think any person has any right to. As we kind of look at the standings here for SCC, though, we do get to see how these EU teams are stacking up onto it. Accounting Department, they're still in second place after that. They still haven't lost their second seed yet. However, there is still Snake Hunters and Pandemonium lurking in the waters there at 4-3. They could easily have that potential to take that second seed from them. But it's looking so kind of clear-cut here that I think Elysium has secured that first seed for them. It's not entirely over just yet. But Snake Hunter and Pandemonium, that is the next matchup as well. That's going to happen tonight after the SPL is complete. So you get to see kind of how the seedings might shake up a bit.
Yeah, that's the one I think is going to be interesting. Pandemonium's been right on the heels of Accounting Department. Same thing for Snake Hunters right now, right? Like, theoretically, anything could happen into that one. A lot of teams still playing catch-up for Elysium, but it's those top two spots that are what, the most coveted at this point. Elysium feeling more than confident, I think, in theirs, so I'm excited to see what exactly is going to happen later.
Yeah, we will get to see that matchup after the SPL, but that means that the SPL still has to come before that match. We will see the SPL pop up in about a half hour. The Bolts and the Leviathans going after each other. This is a matchup I think a lot of people are ready to see. Leviathans on the up and coming here. I believe the first seed here in the SPL. It seems like it's kind of hard to dethrone these guys, but the Bolts are no slacks. I think some people may have kind of underestimated them as the season went through, but they're really shining bright this time around. They've really, I think since that Jade Dragons win, they've kind of been, really stepping up their game onto it. We're going to see how that matchup goes in just under a half hour. As far as the SCC goes, that's it for now. We'll see you guys in about 25, 30 minutes when the SPL kicks off for our Saturday matchups.